Welcome to Soul Sisteries. Okay, well, sis, that was so much fun to talk with our Kirk, who's sitting right here, but we're going to pretend like he's not.
Although he could be
La
part
la
of the
la
discussion.
la la la.
There you go. Yeah, we'll pretend, but you could be part of the discussion also. For me, this was an interesting interview because I know you, Kirk, just kind of from the periphery, from you guys having a relationship over the years and getting to see things at the theater and what you've posted or when you've gone to see his shows or, we've talked about your work with Joey. So this was kind of a fun thing for me to, I guess, get to know you a little bit more than just, I don't know, who you are professionally, I guess.
I think, and I'm so glad for that, and I'm glad that we had this opportunity and did this, but I think also in the bigger picture of even why Soul Sisteries exists, I know for me, I'm always fascinated by people's stories and the depth of experience, and every single person in this world walking this planet has profound, beautiful, funny, humbling, all the things, stories.
Correct.
That connect our humanity. And I think this discussion with our Kirk here was exactly that, showing here's somebody who there are going to be people who know you because they follow your music, they're part of your world and what you do, but you also don't have a million followers and whatnot. You're not in that plane.
Yep.
But you're a man who has been living a profoundly meaningful life, whose story has import and is worth sharing. And this just touches me so deeply. And I'm so grateful to be a part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, it's interesting because that is this podcast is about hope, but it's through stories. It's through people's experiences. And, we've used the word lived experience, but, what have you experienced that gives you hope and how do you bring hope to others? And I know when we first started talking about this, we came to this through our grief journeys, but hope isn't only needed when there's grief, when there's trauma, right? I mean, the world needs hope and not just in the US, the world needs hope and it comes in so many different forms. And, I think that's what is really important to hear this. This is very different than, maybe our first interview, maybe different than what some of our other interviews are going to be, but it's everybody brings something to, I guess, to lift them up, but also to lift others up. And that's really kind of what I'm hoping that we use this medium for.
For sure. And also, I think when we really drill down to it, what is the meaning of hope? So we talk a lot about hope for a better world, hope for a better time. And it's, we can reach better times, but then the nature of life is there's going to be some crap times after that also. So then what is hope? Because we don't just get to this place and then the angels sing and all is well. So as Kirk was sharing about the hope in the action, the doing, the reaching out, the making connections, the growing, right? That the hope is in that because that is the life and the breath and the love. And that is what gives this time meaning.
Yeah.
That's the answer right there.
Yeah.
The story is, to me, the answer.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that we didn't touch. And thank you. That was an amazing, because it was therapy for me. But I love everybody's story. And I guess if I had a chance to change some answers, I might say this to some of the questions that you asked me is everyone has a story, and that story is so important, and so many people don't get to tell it, and so many people don't listen.
Right.
They don't listen. They all think that we're this wonderful thing on the screen and that we're the perfect picture and the edited version that goes out there. And sometimes the story is, I stubbed my toe today and it hurt like crap. And it has bummed me out the entire day.
Made me crabby.
And it made me crabby.
Yeah.
And I just need to tell it to somebody. And I need someone to give a poop. And I think, honestly, that's really one of the things that I really gained, especially from my mom, is listen to the story.
Mm-hmm. And the really cool thing I think about stories is that they're fluid. The story you tell today is not necessarily the same story that you're going to tell tomorrow or, next year. And so it is certainly okay to change your answers.
Yeah.
If hope is blue for you today, that doesn't mean it's going to be blue, next week or next year. And your story and how you remember your story and how you tell your story is going to change. The one constant that I'm looking for, and I know we've talked about this in our own lives, Donna, is like hope through our lives. And where have these, sometimes it's little pockets of hope. Sometimes it's just little specks of hope. Other it's, big, massive mountains of hope. But how does that propel us kind of forward while we're living in the moment, of course, but, not drowning in whatever is going on when we stub our toe today. So
Hope is there. Hope is
is
always
there.
there. It's so interesting. Remember, we got in the car this morning, you
Yes.
and I, sis, and I was talking about my quote, my hope quote is, I always go to Emily Dickinson, and hope is the thing with feathers. And right there at the center of the windshield was a big old white
feather
waiting for us.
Yeah.
The hope is always there. The signs are there. Life is there. Love is there.
Yeah. No birds around, just that white feather was there.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly hope that you enjoy this upcoming episode. Weird to talk about myself. But I'm so thankful that everyone that's out there that's listening is along for the ride. And obviously thankful for you two again. And I'll continue to say it. And I think we always should continue to lift each other up. And I love that we had a chance to learn more about our stories. And I certainly hope that other people become hopeful listening to it.
Welcome to Soul Sisteries. We are here today with our wonderful guest. We're so grateful to have him here, and also that he said yes to being an engineer for our podcast. We have the wonderful Kirk Lane. And welcome, Kirk.
Hi, welcome everyone. Yeah. This is kind of where I'm at right now. And I sense that we're going to straighten some things out that I don't have quite worked out in my brain yet. So, but I'm glad to be here. Guys, we talked about a little bit offline. I'm a person that embraces positive vibes and good stuff. And I've always felt that from you, Donna, and your family. And you're guilty by association. So I'm really excited about not just now, but just what's coming in the future. So.
Well, Donna kind of introduced you as the engineer, / producer of this little endeavor we have going here. I'm wondering if you'll just share with us kind of a little bit about who you are, what you're doing, kind of where your life is today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in my life and the important things. I'm a son. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a brother. I'm a producer. I'm a musician. I'm a lot of things. I'm Kirk. And I think that's ultimately what I want in life is I want people that I've had the pleasure of interacting with or, to speak my name, think of my name, and hopefully it brings them a smile, a good memory. And even if it's a tough lesson that maybe had to be learned, so I think that's what I am or what I aspire to be. I need to stay active. So I do a lot of things. People tell me constantly, like, how do you're here and you're there and you're playing and you're doing this and you're doing that. And if I wasn't, I just wouldn't, I don't think I'd be Kirk. So what I am is someone that's glad to be here, that is thankful for all the roles that I mentioned and hopeful that, that I can bring that hope through action, through lived experiences, through interaction. That's, I think, my own description of myself.
Yeah. I like it. As you're talking, I want to say we also have a history that we didn't even know that goes way back when, because I think we're off by maybe 1 or 2 years where I might have been your middle school teacher because I think you went to the middle school where I taught way back in the day.
Yeah.
That's your hometown.
Yeah, I grew up in Apple Valley, California, and it was an amazing experience. And yeah, I don't want to call it the Al Bundy, but I loved high school. High school was amazing to me. I grew up in a small town.
Yeah.
My parents owned the sporting goods store in the town, so we knew everybody.
Yeah, and I knew that store.
Yeah.
I knew that store having lived there a few years. Yeah.
So, I mean, honestly, I really credit that small town upbringing with, a lot of who I am today. And it's just such a great fond memory. And, with my work, I travel a lot. And I always make sure that if there's someone in town that I know, especially from the high desert, I make sure and spend time with them. I was just in Portland last week, and I'm a big soccer fan and ref and coach and all those player, did all that. And so we went to a Timbers game, and we were high school players, soccer players, and I hadn't seen him since our 20-year reunion, I think, so it's been quite a bit. The week before, I was up in Santa Barbara, Ventura, and visited some friends that lived on the same street as me, and I'm going to Atlanta next week, and I'm going to be visiting with a friend that I haven't seen in a while. So, to me, that small town really helped me understand what it was about. My parents owning their own business, and being someone that from when I can remember was working. Whether it was taking out the trash, sweeping, whatever. So there was always a sense of pride in what I had to do. And then this is not a slag on my mom and dad, but they worked a lot, and so my brother and I had to spend a lot of time raising each other, right? It was a much different time, and you're not as necessarily overwhelmed or concerned with all the things at the time, and everybody knew everybody, right? So there was always a go-to path, but my brother and I, we did the laundry. We did, we cooked, we did all that. In fact, we did all the lawn work. We did all that stuff that, of course, my parents ended up, once we left, paying someone, and we'd come back and go, how come the air conditioner's on? How come everything's clean? We didn't, well, because, our labor is gone, but it made me appreciate it, right? It made me appreciate what I have. In fact, I didn't want a house for years because I knew the upkeep that it took. I just wanted a little apartment that I could go in. So like just that whole, realm. But yeah, no, it's funny that we did come back around to Apple Valley, and all things lead back to the high desert.
Isn't that the truth? Right?
Yeah. So you already started kind of talking about your upbringing and your Apple Valley, which to me I just remember small town living, at least back then. I'm sure it's grown up quite a bit now. But what brought you to where you are today in this, musician and producing and...
Yeah. My whole life, I'm thankful and obviously give tons of credit and honor to the upbringing, specifically to my parents and the people that I was around and the mentors along the way. I mean, so many mentors, teachers, coaches, just, great mentors. And I've always considered myself a sponge. And I'm always soaking things in, even at this age. And, when I first was in school, I thought I was going to be in the military. I was going to go to one of the military academies, and I was set on that. Military history and that's what I wanted to do. That's what I aspired to do. Grandparents fought in, the Great World War II. I had some other relatives that were in the military, and we lived around a lot of military bases in the high desert. Yeah. And my parents did a lot for them because they did, all the t-shirts and all that other stuff. So we were going to Marine bases, Army bases, Air Force bases. We were going to all these bases all the time. So it was just, I really thought that this is what I was going to do. And I was, very much overweight kid and not very, physical or athletic. And I found this sport, soccer, that nobody had heard of back in the, 70s and 80s. And so I, Dad signed me up for T-ball, and I remember crying, like literally falling on the ground at his feet, grabbing, going, no. I don't know the fear. I didn't feel like I could do any of it, right? And so he signed me up for soccer. Well, you know what? That was something I could do, right? Because there was really no expectations because nobody liked it. So I could do whatever. I can go out there and pick daisies, and I was a superstar. And so I did that. I started, getting fit, and I started feeling confident about that. Always been a big music fan, always been somewhat technically, adept. And so I think once I realized I wasn't going to go the military route, I want to be a teacher and I want to be a soccer coach. So I went to school. I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to go to, play in college, and I was going to get my history degree, and I was going to be a coach and a teacher. And then along the way, I had my first kid, and as those things tend to do, they change plans a little bit. And, I was okay with that. And so I was in college, and a good friend of mine's father owned a production company. And he called me up and he said, "Hey, we really need some help for some of these upcoming shows." I had already been kind of starting to play as a musician, so I wasn't afraid plugging things in. And so, I was ripe for that. And here I am 30 plus years later. And oddly enough, the friend that that I started in the industry, and his dad, I now still currently work for him. He's the CEO of the company that I'm in, and we're still great friends. And I'm still great friends with his father, who is an amazing mentor of mine. And, and the great thing is here I am doing podcast stuff because I'm not afraid to set this up. I help out at our theater, and of course my wife's a teacher. So I've always been the resident audiovisual tech at her schools, and kind of whoever just asked me to help, I'm always thankful to help. And, the jobs allowed me to kind of travel all over the place and meet a lot of great people and do a lot of great things, and also things that weren't so great, but that I've learned and grown from.
That's just life, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's the path. So, we were talking a little bit about the fact that we've got a tagline here for our podcast, which is hope through ... And we fill that in for each person we talk to. And we were talking about, well, what's your hope through, Kirk? And we kind of forced you to land on what sounded like everything that you were talking about, which is hope through action. And that's exactly what you were just describing. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What is that for you?
Yeah. Well, I'll just break it down simple. I love sitting on the couch and watching a good movie or whatever. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing that fills me up like getting up, putting the harness on my dog, and going for an hour-long walk and listening to a book or a podcast or music or whatever else, and just doing something, right? There's nothing like jumping in the garage and cleaning it up, or, if we have a big task at work, and just doing it. And so, I think I've always had that example. My parents own their own business. It's not an easy thing to own your own business. Mm-hmm. So I had that inspiration in front of me, and I'm fidgety, and I can get easily distracted. And so to me, doing things just always brought me not just joy. It brings me joy, but it brought me completeness. Mm-hmm. Is that a word? It
a satisfaction.
I felt good about it. It's that old, you tended the farm, and you woke up early, and you were so exhausted at the end of the night that you just went to sleep, and then you reflected, and then you went up and you did it again. And, listen, I don't pretend for a second that I don't live an amazing life. Mm-hmm. I'm very lucky, but I think part of that has come from my need to do, it's the accomplishment. I'm a visual learner. I'm a do learner. And so that's kind of been my approach to so many things. And then, hey, I'm stubborn, and I'm far less stubborn now than I was younger. And I think I'm thankful for that, because I see too many of my friends that are stubborn for stubborn's sake, and just, I know it all and you're wrong. And why does it have to change? And well, it has to change because everything changes, just like you change your damn underwear every day. Right? It's just something you have to do.
I mean, presumably.
Presumably. So, again, Yeah, I could easily, when I'm on the road, I could easily just go to bed every night and be done. But I would prefer to go to the soccer game, or I'd prefer to go to the show, or I'd prefer to go see a musical, or I'd prefer to go and see what's the cool spot in that city. And I would most definitely want to go and reconnect with someone that brought me joy younger in life, or a younger point in my life, and just to bring that up again, and then maybe hopefully inspire them a little, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
So it sounds like you live a very kind of like action-driven life, not that you don't relax, but that you're going to accomplish things, right? And so I wonder what your like life philosophy is. If somebody asked you, what's your philosophy of life? Is it, never stop? I don't know.
no, jokingly, I used to tell people, aim low, because if you hit straight off, you're in a good spot. My life philosophy is to live.
Mm.
To put it simply, is to live. We wake up every day, and there's job number one. I woke up. It's a pretty dang good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can make a lot of decisions from that time that I wake up. And sometimes I pick up the phone and check and see what's going on in the world or whatever, but sometimes I get right up and I get after it. But at some point during that day, I want to make sure that I did something for myself. I did something for the ones that I love, and that I did something for my dog, and did something for, the people that I'm around, whether I know them or not. And yeah, living. That's my philosophy, living.
Yeah. Well, definitely that was true. And I, sat down with you some weeks back just to say, hey, my sister and I have this plan, and we knew you knew about the podcast world, and maybe you can give us some insights. And you were right away, I'm in. I'm gonna support this. I'm gonna be a part, and we're gonna make this happen. And so you leapfrogged us quite a bit.
It's listen. I'm so, as I've mentioned, I'm always going to be so thankful for, the people in my life, the fact that I feel like I have the gumption to get, going every day and to do something. We're all in this together, whether we want to be or not, right? And there's a lot of crappy choices out there. There's a ton of crappy choices, personally, professionally, on all different levels, right? And I've always been thankful that those that I try and surround myself, whether they do it directly, indirectly, they lift me up. Whether that's the goal but I like being around people. I like being around things. I like doing that. And so when we had this discussion, I know how not just myself, but my entire family has benefited from you, Donna.
Aw,
Come
on.
Well, let's talk about superstars. Let's talk about the productions. Let's talk about the book club you invited my wife to, and the friendship that has developed from there, and this partner that I have, to know that she has someone like you in her life, right?
Well, I appreciate that, but listen, she's one of the greatest people I know in all the
You're
world.
not going to get an argument from
so
me.
grateful
and
to
I
call
consider
her my
myself lucky. So I just need to say that you, your family,
well, thank you,
have always been so supportive of our family, my family. And so I know what you have, and I indirectly know what you have, and I'm excited to know more about it. I really am. And so as I go through this journey, if I can have people like you in my life, and that you could be in my kids' life as you are, and you can be in my wife's life as you are,
thank you.
You're in my parents, right?
Yeah. Good egg, your pop.
When I
Your
lost
mama.
my pops,
Yeah.
you were there.
Oh, yeah, babe. Yeah.
And because I'm surrounded by such amazing people, I'm not afraid to cry. And it is one of the most fulfilling things you can do as a human. It will bring emotions to yourself that you really can't experience with any chemical, any distraction or whatever else. And so I'm thankful for the many women in my life, my mom to start off with, my wife, hell, my ex-wife,
Mm-hmm.
my
Good.
kids,
Yeah.
all the examples, my mother-in-law,
Yeah.
that, hey, we're just here and we just need to embrace your emotions and feelings and do good. And so I'm thankful for that. So,
Well, let me ask about that though, because I know from what you've shared with me that this was not always your path to be so closely connected and so vulnerable and so present and so real, that there's conscious choice and action here too. Yeah.
yeah, no, hey, I'm a kid that grew up in the 70s and the 80s, and I said things and did things that I'll regret for the rest of my life. Whether it was a racial slur, whether it was sexist, unfortunately, I did all that. Conscious or not, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it for acceptance. And I did it because that's the pathway that I thought we all needed to go down,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it never felt good.
Yeah.
But what felt good is when I could talk to my mom and I could tell her about my day and I could tell her about the fears or anxieties or the problems that I had. And, mom didn't tell me what to do. She just listened and accepted and said, you're a good person and you're going to do the right thing. And if you don't do the right thing, you're going to learn from it and you're going to
Go fix that.
go fix that.
Yeah.
And then, experiences like that and just, always have been connected with those that just kind of go beyond those superficial things that are all there. And I get it. Like, I mean, to this day, there's still that, you kind of got to fit in and I'm not a person that needs to go out and tell the world what all my beliefs and everything are. Okay. My beliefs are just spend time with me and follow me and watch me.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know what my beliefs are. I don't need to state them. I don't need to stamp them. I don't need to put a label. I don't need to do anything. My beliefs are, we're here for a short time, live life. We're in this together. It just feels so much better when we can have a discussion like this and feel good and not feel, I'm okay with being vulnerable. I'm okay with hard questions. I'm okay with crying. I cry too much. I know there's people that are going to be like, I can't keep it together. But that's fine. I'd much rather have that than the ability not to, right? And too many
Amen.
people just keep that all inside. So, yeah, thankful, live life, just do it. All of these things are present in front of me, and I am thankful that I have the motivation mostly on a daily basis to go after it. Because there are all those times like you mentioned, and I think that's one thing that I've done now older, than when I was younger, because you just feel like you can just go on and go on and go on. I'm very intentional about my time off, alone, or to reflect or do whatever. Now, I mentioned my walks with my dog. That's part of it, right? It's physical, you're outside, you're giving this little four-legged being the opportunity to go out and do whatever he needs to do. And at the same time, I can enrich myself by listening to the birds, not the band, but the real birds, or music, or a book, or a podcast, or any of the other great things that's nice, that we could have right in our palm of our hands. So like trying to use that for good as opposed to just let my brain rot away. But then there's times when I get back from a show and I try not to book too much, but there's also limited time for other things. So you do it and you find the other time to rest. But I'm intentional about my rest. What I do need to, I love and embrace and know the importance of therapy, yet I don't go to therapy. I don't have a therapist. You're my therapist. My dog is my therapist. My wife is my therapist. My music is my therapist. But none of those, and I think that's the next journey. And like, honestly, part of my motivation for helping you guys with this is to get over that next step in my life and find the right pathway to that therapy, because I think it'll make me a better person. And if I can be a better person, then I feel like I could be a better producer for this podcast. I can be a better father. I could be a better husband. I could be a better musician. I could be a better comedian. I could be a better whatever the F I want it to be. And so going back to your earlier question, that was part of my motivation as well, is like, listen, I haven't quite figured out how to jump that hurdle, but if I can sit in and listen to you guys, I mean, sorry, I'm going to just put it all out there. I feel like I'm going to gain from it because I know this stuff, but I don't know this stuff, right? I'm pointing at you for the world that doesn't know. I'm pointing at these two amazing individuals that are sitting next to me. So,
I mean, that's super cool, but isn't it interesting that it seems to be, it's always the good people in the world who want to know how to be better people. So, that's an underlying thing.
But there's always value in going to therapy. So of course you're not going to hear me question that. But
yes.
Yeah. So you mentioned, maybe some people are going to listen to you, getting choked up and teary-eyed and kind of think like, what's this guy doing? What do you think you as a young boy would say to yourself now? If you were, 13-year-old Kirk, seeing what you're doing and who you are now as a dad, as a husband, as a producer, a musician, what would 13-year-old Kirk say?
I would hope that 13-year-old Kirk would just say, keep it up. Right? Because I felt like I was a doer when I was young too. I think I would just tell myself to keep it up and stay positive. I think that's important, but stay realistic. I was and am and always will be just, there's so much to learn every day. There's so much to learn. And I hope, so there's my answer. Don't ever stop learning.
Yeah.
Old Kirk, don't ever stop. Don't ever stop. There's always room for more. There's always room for more. And there's also room for, and this is another thing that's really, really, really important to me. And I think I've learned from many mentors is also let it go. Don't hold on to it.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Identify that it's an anxiety or identify that it doesn't make you feel good, or identify whatever it is, whether it's a memory, whether it's a feeling, whether it's whatever, but it's okay to let some of that stuff go.
Yeah.
And I think that's a hard thing. I'm very much a pack rat as a person, right? I still have all the letters that have ever been written to me, I have a whole box of them. My wife makes fun of me every time, and she should, but it's just those, someone took the time to write me a letter to tell me their feelings. And I value that. I valued it then and I value it now. Now, it's important for me to keep a couple hundred, old pieces of writing paper in my garage. It isn't. It's the memory. It's all of that. It was great during COVID when we had a lot of time, and I went through and I read a lot of that. And I just went, you know what, Kirk, seems like you were a pretty good guy when you were a kid, and just keep that up.
Yeah.
But one thing I've found now as I'm getting older, like I'm definitely getting much better at letting go. Right. And letting go of those, and I got to tell myself it's an anxiety. Like I just went through this whole garage cleaning thing. Right. And it's like it's taken me 5 years to get motivated to really do the project the way that it needed to be done. And that was for a long 5 years that I could have got a lot of stuff done during that time, but I didn't. And I just, whatever was motivated recently to make it happen. And so there's these boxes and stuff that's going in the trash and stuff that's going to, Goodwill or whatever else. And like, there was a time where I would just be like, my heart would be aching. And then instead of looking at it as I'm losing this, I looked at it as I got so much out of this for when I had it, but it's been sitting here in my garage doing nothing. Maybe it's going to bring joy to somebody else. And so that process, as I get older, I had all these great things. I don't need these great things as much as anymore, as much as I need, this conversation
Yeah.
and this time with
Yeah.
you guys and this ability to hopefully in our future episodes to get some other guy out there that is struggling with something to give them the motivation to find that help and then hopefully be good for themselves. But I said it earlier, I think before we started recording, there's no joy like lifting somebody else up.
Yeah.
There is, whether they know it, whether they acknowledge it,
Mm-hmm.
whether, you get an award for it or there is nothing like seeing someone that you've had the ability to lift up, to lift them up, find themselves and go out into the world and make it a better place for not only themselves, but the people in their immediate sphere of influence. That's
exactly it. So you were talking earlier about the things, the ways in which I relate to your kids and what the involvement there. That's why, that's a big why I do a lot of those things. It's a win-win. It all comes around and there's so much that I get out of that service and support. But anyway, not about me, but amen to that. Amen to that. So in this journey, have you come away with like a life philosophy? What would you put on the t-shirt, the Kirk t-shirt? Like, this is the thing.
There is very much a comedic side to me, right? And so my initial reaction to many things growing up has been deflection through comedy, right?
Nice.
So my initial response would be the front of the shirt says, been there, done that. Mm-hmm. And the back of the shirt would be, can't wait to go back.
That is awesome. I love that.
Because the been there, done that is an acknowledgement that I've always had a thirst to enjoy the world. Yeah. And whether that meant traveling or whether that meant me walking down the street as a, 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid and going 2 blocks up to the Hansons' house, this elderly couple that lived on our street. And they didn't really have anyone, right? And I don't remember the circumstances. I don't care what the circumstances are. What I remember is that if I was feeling anxious and mom and dad were at work or Darren, my brother, was gone, I would go up to the Hansons and you know what? I'd get milk and cookies or I'd get something and I would get treated like an amazing individual. And I just wanted to spend time with someone. And whether we played a game or talked about or what, I had the chance to be there and do that, right? And then I was talking about the cleaning up and I pulled out some of the cards that they used to send me. And I go, I'm so thankful that as a kid, I just wanted to spend time and be with people, whether they were my people or not my people. They're because we're all people and we're all each other's people. And I think if people really realize that, we wouldn't have as much crap as we have going on. So that philosophy, I think, is you could obviously code it however you want. Been there, done that. Can't wait to go back.
Yeah.
I just have to say, that's so much like you, sis.
Yes.
That's the person you've always been.
Mine were the Allensons. I did the same thing around the corner, about 6 doors down to the Allensons. The exact same. So,
but also walking home with the mailman and going around the corner to the senior home and hanging out there and adopting grandparents. Yeah. And that was you as a kid doing these things and always have been that person.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a piece of, I think, Kirk, you bringing hope into your own life, but also kind of disseminating that hope to somebody else, right? So you were there with that couple around the corner or down the street and you helped them and serve. It might not feel like it right now, but you served a need for them and allowed them to service you also.
Oh,
and
man.
that was so valuable. Yeah. Yeah. So how do you hope to be remembered at the end of this journey?
I hope to be remembered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope to be remembered. And I say that directly because, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's the same answer. That when you think of Kirk, when you think of those interactions, I certainly hope it's something positive. Even if I may have done something stupid, there's a strong chance that that happened or said something stupid or, I do certainly hope that people think back and go, man, I really enjoyed spending time with Kirk. That, maybe it inspires them to go there and do that and do it again and lift people up too. Yeah. I hope people feel like that they gain something, however minute. And, yeah.
You have to know that you have already laid down such strong foundations with so many young people. I know you just sort of off the cuff, and we have these other strays and, we've adopted one. You have a number of young people who you've literally brought into your home, as well as your own children and my son included in this whole, who you've directly mentored in this world of audio engineering. And he has a great foundation of, not only the actual functioning, the tech tools, but how you show up for things and how you approach them professionally that he's gotten from you. And that you have to know that there are many young people like that.
I hope so. And I do. And there's also an ego part of me that kind of needs that because I believe my fulfillment doesn't just come from just that immediate doing stuff for yourself and doing for others, but there is that need to see those that you've spent time with, like to the question, what do I hope I'm remembered for, is that yeah, it's hard and it's difficult and you're going to get judged and you're going to judge yourself and you're going to do all this, but none of it really effing matters when it's over. All we have is right now. That's the only real thing that I think is guaranteed, is the moment now. And that's the driver. And I want the world, young, middle, old, I want them to know that the moment is now. Do it. You will be rewarded tenfold in so many different ways. You will be enriched in so many different ways. So I appreciate you saying that. And I know it from the sense that I'm conscious in being that person that shows up and being that person that is the go-to, and that anyone who I'm fortunate enough to know or be friends with or family with, that you call me and I'm there. And that's all there is to it. So, and right, we're parents. Of course what do I want from anyone is time. And we get so focused on, my time is so precious and my time is so valuable and I can only give you this much. And we talked about the Hansons, and that's all they wanted was time.
Right.
They just want someone to acknowledge, know that they were there. And I got time from my parents, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, my godparents, my cousins, my friends growing up, my teachers, my coaches. Every single one that I've interacted with has given me their time. And it's such a precious commodity, and they gave it freely. And I feel like they gave it willingly, or at least that's what I'm going to tell myself. And I would hope that many people embrace that philosophy and took it, because you know what? No matter if we're playing tic-tac-toe or having a really deep conversation, that time together, it should fill you up.
Yeah. It's everything.
Yep.
Should we hit our rapid fire questions? So this is the thing. It's the thing in our podcast. We think, is the thing that we're going to do is to have this series of questions. We're just going to ask them, and you throw out your answer, and you can talk about them or not. Just say what the thing is, and on we go. Yeah?
Got it.
Perfect. All right, sis, hit it.
How about what color is hope?
Blue.
Blue.
Nice. What does hope sound like?
Hope is the air. Hope is the way. The hope is the sound of life. Hope is all of it. Hope is the senses to me, and I take all those senses in, and it becomes hope for me, because when I smell an amazing batch of cookies, I'm so hopeful that they're going to be amazing and I'm going to eat them. And when I hear a lone musician playing an instrument and is creating music, whether it's theirs or somebody else's, it's music, and it gives me hope. And when I see the sun shining behind the clouds or reflecting off the water, and sometimes you can capture it, in a picture. I fly a lot, and I take a picture out of the airplane every flight, just to remind me, especially if I'm above the clouds, and that I get to see this little round thing spinning around with all these billions of people doing stuff on it. And just for a brief moment, I'm just up in the sky, 30,000 feet with a couple of hundred other people. And we're just getting to a destination so that we can be there and do that. And so that's my long answer.
Yeah. What's your theme song?
Always look on the bright side of life.
That's so fun.
From Monty Python.
Yes.
It's if you know it, it's not necessarily the most inspirational song in the world, but it's in context, it's my theme song. And I can't whistle very well, so that just makes it even.
That's so good. All right, so what would your 13-year-old self say to you, is the one we asked?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what would you say to your 13-year-old self from this perspective?
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, but I got to steal the other answer, which by the time this comes out will be out to the rest of the world so that I can say that. But when we recorded and you asked that question of Brianna, and it was, keep it up, because I'm not me if I change the course of that learning and that experience. And so, the keep it up and I'm proud of you, I think is important. And, my parents said that to me often.
Lucky.
And yes. Oh, yes. And so many people along the way. Right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Who inspires you?
We don't have enough time. Who inspires me is those that are in my presence that are, of course, if they're doing it, then I want to do it. And I think that's important, is like, you don't want to put too many people on a pedestal and make them more than they are, because, the most famous person on earth, the most successful, however you gauge what success is, they were motivated and inspired by something, and they just, they have, words of wisdom from Ron Lane Bumpa. They all poop with their pants down around their ankles. Sorry for the visual, but you could be beautiful, amazing, rich, and whatever else. But at the end of the day, you still got to do the same things that I do. Yeah. And like I'd mentioned, and I hope is a theme, we're all just people here, and we just got to be together. So I everyone inspires me.
Yeah. All right.
Everyone, everything.
That's
kind of a simple but I hope you understand.
No, totally understand it. And it's very much a part of who you are. I mean, there's intentionality around that also. So, okay, we did a little Python reference a moment ago. So what's the meaning of life for Kirk?
Wow. To me, is to breathe and live. I could expound and say all these wonderful things, but some days when I'm having a crappy day and I'm mad at everything and I just want to, break something, the meaning of life for me is not the same at that moment. It's not. So the meaning of life for me is to live.
Nice.
and all that entails.
Yeah. How about a fill in the blank? Your word was action. So action is what?
Is oxygen.
So action is the breathing and the air. So action is the life also. And, okay.
That's profound.
Yep.
It is. Well, okay, bring it on home for us with hope is.
Hope is knowing that whether you know it or not, that there is someone or something or a being or an energy out there that cares for you, loves you, wants all of the amazing things for you. And hope is giving that person, energy, or whatever it is, the opportunity to embrace it and be that light hope.
Very good. So obviously you're doing a bunch of things right now. I haven't been able to see you except for what you've posted on Facebook or when Dawn has shared. So if people want to see you, doing a gig as a musician, if people want to connect with you for your producing and your engineering skills, where do they find you?
So, so for my music, I have a couple of different areas. I have Kirk Lane Music, and that's both on Instagram and Facebook. And then I play in a band called the Darryls, and my name is Larry, and you're my sister Daryl and my other sister Daryl. And so for those of you of a certain age group will understand exactly where that came from. So we are the Darryls, and Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. And we gig pretty regularly, so that's good. And I do the solo acoustic stuff, and most recently doing a duet type thing with a good friend of ours, Allison, who's just one of the most talented voices and amazing individuals that's out there. And I'm just hopeful and thankful that we were able to finally figure this out after being in close proximity over the last couple of years. So those are the things that you can go to. I work for a company called Clarity Experiences, and I love this company, and it's as important to work hard and play hard and just embrace life and do all those things. So those are the places that you can follow me and find my gigs and all that other stuff. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
it's been
thank you.
Getting to spend time together.
It's amazing. And I'll reiterate it over and every time I get the chance to see this. I'm so hopeful and thankful for you guys allowing me to help this journey along. But I am so hopeful and excited about the many peoples out there that are going to benefit from the amazing insights and life experiences that you and I know the people that you're always going to be selective that you bring on, to hope maybe you give them a little bit of inspiration, or at the very least, just some little reflection and, hey, we're on this journey together, and could be difficult sometimes, but so I want to thank you guys especially for creating that light and letting me change the batteries every once in a while.
Thank you, friend. So much fun.
Yes.
Yay.
Thanks for joining us today on Soul Sisteries.
And thanks for sharing stories with us. We'd love to hear your stories as well and keep the conversation going, absolutely keeping the hope going. So we're really hopeful that you'll connect with our guests as well who have great stories to share. Go ahead and follow them in various social media platforms or live venues, wherever it is that they're performing and sharing what they do.
We would love to have you follow us on all of our social media platforms, subscribe and rate, as that will help us get our message of hope out to others.
Thanks for listening to Soul Sisteries.